do you mean? What do you mean? What? What do you mean? What?
Meanwhile, you have science that's coming out. There's legitimate articles. Jamie, I'll send this to you now. There's legitimate because doctors have been sending me these things. And, you know, this is neither pro nor con vaccine. This is not a judgment statement. But imperfect vaccination can enhance the transmission of highly virulent pathogens.
Right.
So this is a scientific paper from 2015 that shows that here's what an important quote: vaccines that keep the host alive but still allow transmission can thus allow virulent strains to circulate in a population. So vaccines that don't kill the virus, vaccines that allow people, like this is one of the things we're finding out about what they're calling breakthrough cases.
Right.
So people who are vaccinated can still get COVID and they can still transmit COVID.
Mm-hmm.
This recently happened at the Comedy Store. A vaccinated comedian gave COVID to like 12 different fucking people at the Comedy Store. Some of them vaccinated, some of them not. That situation where the vaccine just kind of protects you from serious damage,
Right.
but it protects you from really being like badly hospitalized or death, but doesn't stop you from getting the virus, can possibly lead to more potent viruses. So these people that are saying, oh, it's these unvaccinated people that are responsible for the variants. Well, there's actually scientific papers that point to the very sort of environment that we're creating by having so many people vaccinated with a vaccine that doesn't kill off
Right.
the virus. It actually can lead to more potent viruses. Try finding that story anywhere.
I haven't seen anybody else talk about this or debunk this, so here we go. And so I thought we should probably start by reading the rest of the abstract that Rogan quotes a line from. Could some vaccines drive the evolution for more virulent pathogens? Conventional wisdom is that natural selection will remove highly lethal pathogens if host death greatly reduces transmission. Vaccines that keep hosts alive but still allow transmission could thus allow very virulent strains to circulate in a population. Here we show experimentally that immunization of chickens against Marek disease virus enhances the fitness of more virulent strains, making it possible hyperpathogenic strains to transmit. Immunity elicited by direct vaccination or by maternal vaccination prolongs host survival but does not prevent infection, viral replication, or transmission, thus extending the infectious periods of strains otherwise too lethal to persist. Our data shows that anti-disease vaccines that do not prevent transmission can create conditions that promote the emergence of pathogen strains that cause more severe disease in unvaccinated hosts. Now, what I can take away from that is that there was a vaccine that would protect chickens from a disease, but it was not preventing the virus that caused the disease from transmitting amongst the chicken. And so, since the vaccine was pretty much all that was keeping the chickens from dying from the disease, unvaccinated chickens were in a lot of trouble, especially since the virus is still being transmitted. And so you see, even in this scenario with the chickens, the ones that were in trouble were the unvaccinated chickens. While I was searching the title of that study, I found something with Joe Rogan in the title. And so I thought it must be relevant and I should read it to you all. The title of it is, Joe Rogan is getting this completely wrong, says the scientist who conducted the vaccine study. And this is from the 8th of August 2021, day after that clip was posted on YouTube. Joe Rogan is getting this completely wrong, says Andrew Reed, professor of biology and entomology at Pennsylvania State. He's taking very careful work about evolutionary scenarios of the future, and from that, erroneously concluding that people should not be vaccinated now. Rogan quotes a line from the paper's abstract out of context. Vaccines that keep hosts alive but still allow transmission could thus allow very virulent strains to circulate in a population. Reed responds, We're talking a very different virus and very different vaccines. The details in biology really matter a lot. The chicken vaccines we worked on, the first generation vaccines, definitely reduced disease, severity, and death. But unlike the COVID mRNA vaccines, the chicken vaccines did not stop transmission at all. And this is one of the key differences between what was being studied in Reed's paper and our current situation with the global pandemic. Those vaccinated chickens just kept churning out the virus for weeks and weeks and weeks. Again, this is a key difference. It's a very different virus from SARS-2. A key issue here is transmissibility. More transmission increases the likelihood of mutation. Thankfully, COVID-19 vaccines reduce transmission and reduce opportunity for mutation. Think about what happens with evolution, offers Reed. Mutation can occur anytime the virus replicates. So the more replication, the more variants are generated. At the moment, the vast majority of the replication is happening in unvaccinated people. You can tell that because the majority of cases in the hospital are unvaccinated individuals. That is where the evolutionary action is happening at the moment. Let's be super clear about this. Are variants occurring in vaccinated or unvaccinated people? Evolution at the moment is all happening in the unvaccinated. That's where the majority of cases are. That's the majority of transmission. Every time a virus replicates, it can mutate. So the evolution is right now occurring in the body of people who are not vaccinated. Rogan is completely wrong trying to deduce anything else. The Delta variant emerged from populations who lacked access to vaccines. Delta came in India where there was crazy amounts of transmission, not among the vaccinated, but among the unvaccinated. That's what we need to stop. The unvaccinated need to either get vaccinated or socially distance, mask up, stopping transmission. That's the trick here. Reed agrees with the vast majority of health experts that vaccines are our best weapon against COVID-19. He adds the best way to slow evolution is to stop the virus. It's as simple as that. No replication, no evolution. Could a variant evolve in vaccinated people? Even though variants are more likely to emerge in unvaccinated people, a variant from a vaccinated person is still possible. Either way, the answer is vaccines. If a new variant emerges, we can get second generation vaccines. Reed accurately points out as pharmaceutical companies are already developing booster and second generation vaccines. There's tons of things we can do in the future. Right now we need to vaccinate as much as possible. He pauses. I would be delighted, I have to say, to get to the point where the vast majority of the evolution that's going on is in vaccinated people because there's only vaccinated people around. If we get to that point in a year or something, we can keep a very good eye on what evolution is happening, but right now the problem is the unvaccinated. Is there any reason to avoid vaccination for fear it could produce a vaccine-resistant mutation? It's a bizarre line of logic that some hypothetical possibility down the line would hold back life-saving medicine now, especially when the vaccines themselves cut down the amount of virus circulating in the population. Are the mRNA vaccines leaky? Rogan seems to think that mRNA vaccines are quite leaky because of breakthrough infection. Reed points out that no vaccine is 100% effective. Although we still need more data to determine how leaky they are, the rate of breakthrough infections in vaccinated people remains statistically low enough to consider the mRNA vaccine highly effective at preventing infection. We don't know at the moment how leaky these things are. It's conceivable that they are really close to non-leaky. I'm amazed how good these mRNA vaccines are. They're incredibly good. Reed's very concerned that misrepresentation of his research is causing vaccine hesitancy. The study was tweeted 1,000 times last night. I had a physician in England reach out to me on Friday asking me to clarify because his patients are using my paper to argue against vaccination. Calling into question the effectiveness of vaccines was never the intention of his 2015 study. I am genuinely shocked. I've been doing work for 20 years now on how vaccines might drive the evolution of viruses. There's nothing in any of that 20 years work that argues in favor of withholding life-saving vaccines. vaccines. It's just shocking to me. He adds, there are 600,000 Americans dead so far. The vast majority of those deaths are vaccine preventable. There's not a single scenario that would argue in favor of not using vaccines to save the next 100,000. Not one scenario. And another thing, vaccines even worked on the chickens Reed was studying. The poultry industry was being hammered by that virus. They made the discovery in the 1960s of a way to vaccinate that saved the industry a fortune, says Reed. It kept many, many chickens from dying horrible deaths. It was absolutely terrific. And then after 10 years, evolution caused some problems which required a different vaccine, which was developed very quickly. And that held for another 10 years. And then the third generation of vaccine is why your chicken nuggets are still cheap. It worked now for 30 or 40 years and it stopped the virus evolution. Almost certainly the reason it stopped the virus evolution is because it stopped transmission. So even in the chicken case, there is no argument at all why you would want to be an unvaccinated chicken. Is Reed vaccinated? Yes. My partner, my kids, everybody as soon as we could. Yeah. Is Reed being pressured to conform to mainstream science? No. He throws his head back laughing. Then his tone shifts. The price we pay for misinformation. What really gets me, apart from the fact that I do think this is a public health threat, that people who are arguing against vaccinations are doing other people great harm. Apart from that, I'm really concerned that this sort of disinformation or this inappropriate interpretation means that it's difficult for us scientists to actually ask serious questions about how evolution might proceed and get a good look at it because we are concerned that our work will be taken and twisted. Those of us who are very interested in the way that evolution might go have trouble doing the work or at least talking about it because of concerns that people like Joe Rogan will twist it and use it in the wrong way. I think we have a moral obligation as scientists and public health people to look at the evolution going forward, keep an eye on it, make sure that if anything happens that we don't like, that we rapidly develop vaccines to pick up on it and sort it out. I can't see any scenarios where we can't address possible evolutionary consequences by tweaking vaccines or by developing next generation vaccine. Vaccines are the way out of this.
So these people that are saying, oh, it's these unvaccinated people that are responsible for the variants. Well, there's actually scientific papers.
Well, there you have it. The scientist that wrote the scientific paper that Joe Rogan cited, that scientist said Joe's wrong and he said you should get vaccinated. And he explained what I have explained on this channel before, that giving the virus an opportunity to replicate is when it has its opportunity to mutate, giving us different variants. And with the way your immune system works, once you're vaccinated, you're armed against the virus. But if you're not, you're giving it time to replicate in you before your immune system detects it and tries to destroy it if it can. And my final thought on this all, what I've learnt through this whole experience, is that there could very well be variants coming from vaccinated people, but that seems like it'll be most likely when it's mainly only got vaccinated people to deal with, because it's a lot easier to infect an unvaccinated person. So that's what the virus will do. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe.